We are focused on the American worker this morning. White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney saying that the 800,000 federal workers who were not paid twice during the partial government shutdown should receive those checks by the end of this week. Joining us right now is American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations President, AFL-CIO, Richard Trumka. It's great to see you, Richard. Thanks so much for being here.
Maria, thanks for having me on.
Give us your take on what the impact of the shutdown was.
Well, I think there's several impacts. There's the impact on the people, and you not only have government workers who will get back pay, but you have the government contractors who won't get back pay unless something is done. That was a devastating effect on them. It had a devastating effect on the economy itself. $11 billion, although we'll pick some of that back up later in the year. But you had a devastating effect on, like, the airline industry, where you had people, airline controllers, traffic controllers, that were in school that actually just up and left. They said, we're not do this anymore. We don't want to be treated this way.
What could have been done about it then, Richard? Because you, as the leader that you are and representing so many workers across the country, have to be unnerved when you see open borders and illegals coming in and taking your jobs.
Look, that's just not how it works anymore. I mean, you have people that got laid off from the president's place that have been here 20 years. They're not taking anybody's job. What we want to do is make sure every worker in this country has the same rights so that they can't be exploited. Because what happens right now with undocumented workers is they're great when no one's around. When they try to organize and get a voice, then they start squeezing them. They start calling in ICE and different things. The idea is, if everybody has the same rights, then they can't exploit those people, and everybody can actually have a fair playing field. What happens to American employers right now is you have an employer that hires people, makes them work in unfair conditions, misclassifies them, underpays them, and they're competing against our employer. That employer needs to pay everybody the same rate, live by the same working conditions, so that we can all compete.
So you're okay with illegals coming in, and as long as everybody's treated the same? Well,
Maria, it's a nice cliche, illegals coming in, but you know yourself that most people that are here undocumented or illegally came in legally. So the whole system needs to be addressed.
No, but there are apprehensions that we can look at just in the month of December, just in the month of November, where apprehensions were of illegal immigrants coming in and wanting asylum in the United States.
There is no question that the system is broken. We need to fix the system and have a path towards citizenship so that those workers that have been here for years and are actually making the economy run, even the president's golf courses and things like that, they have a chance to get citizenship, and they work their way through.
Just the question on the golf courses is, you know, that's the H-2B program. People who come here as foreign workers come under a specified amount of time for DOL. I think the real question is that what happens to all the people, not who have been here, who came legally and overstayed a visa, but what about all the people who come every day at the southern border and can cross into our country? That's really the pernicious problem. And even a wall built with American workers, you'd be for that.
But listen, the people that come back and forth, you have Americans that go to Mexico and Mexicans that come to America to work.
So you don't think there's a problem at the border at all?
I didn't say that. Oh. There is a problem. We do need border security. And no, I don't think that a wall is the answer to it. Every time someone's tried to build a wall, it's not been very successful.
Well, the one in Tijuana is successful.
Ask the French.
The wall in Tijuana is successful.
Tijuana, right.
Tijuana and San Diego. What about that, Richard?
I'm sorry?
The wall between Tijuana, separating Tijuana from San Diego. Is that successful?
There are places probably where it works. Is that the answer to everything? No. Should that have been the reason for a shutdown? Absolutely not.
I want to ask you a broader political question. We've seen in the last two elections that increasingly voters, blue-collar voters in manufacturing towns all over America, the kind of rank-and-file people that you represent, are voting for Republicans. They're going for Trump. Does the AFL-CIO need to realign its own approach to politics in this town, given that more and more of its people are going with people like Donald Trump and his trade policies and the Republican Party?
Well, that's a question we could talk about 2 or 3 hours for. First of all, we have realigned our politics. We are issue oriented right now. We put an issue out, and if a politician supports that issue, then we support them. In fact, in this last election, we elected 2 union members to the Senate, 3 to governorship, 18 to the House of Representatives, and 925 to state legislatures, because those workers will go and support our issues. That's what we try to do. We find it more and more difficult to find Republicans that actually support us. Now, the American worker believes that neither the political system nor the economic system works for them. They want somebody to change the rules. That's why they voted for Trump. If he changes the rules to their advantage, some of them will vote for him again. If he doesn't, he stands a chance of losing those workers. And right now, he's losing those workers.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Richard Trumka there.